Alright, CNT120, we're still working on our Chapter 2 lab. First podcast we looked at MAC address. Second podcast we looked at port numbers. This podcast we're going to look at IP addressing, specifically IP version 4. And what we're going to do is we're going to set a static IP address on our Windows machine, set a static IP on our Linux machine, and ping between them. So I'm going to just minimize my Linux VM for now to kind of declutter the screen. I'm going to go to where I set my network settings on my Windows machine, and the way I prefer is just clicking the little network icon down here and open network and sharing. I'm going to click on my Ethernet 3 NIC, properties, and I'm going to go in here where it says TCP/IP version 4. You'll notice that I see down here IP version 6. We'll come to that a little bit later, but I'm going to do IP4. I'm going to click properties, and you'll notice right now it's set for obtain IP address automatically. What that means is it's getting an IP address from a DHCP server that's connected to the network somewhere. We're going to put our own static IP in. So I'm going to click that, and you'll notice these come available for me to use. And I'm going to put a static IP in. I'm going to use 192.168.10. And just so we don't have conflicts in the room, I tell all my students when we're in the lab, look at the bottom of the monitor. On the bottom of your monitor is a sticker indicating your machine number. Use that machine number for the last octet. That way we don't have any conflicts with two of us trying to use the same IP address. When I click on the subnet mask window here, it fills in the default class C subnet mask 255.255.255.0, and I can leave that. That is the correct subnet mask for what we're doing. Under here, under default gateway, this would be the IP address of a router or a gateway that we're connecting to get us to the internet. Well, right now we're not trying to do that. We're trying to make our own little private network, so I'm going to leave this blank. I don't have to put anything in there. So I'm going to say OK. Don't close with the X's up here. That doesn't apply the change. I'm going to click OK, so it saves that change and applies it. So now I have changed the IP address on this machine. I'm going to close this to just declutter. I'm going to open my command prompt, and I'm going to do an IP config and verify. I'm going to scroll up here and look for the Ethernet 3. There he is. And there's my 192.168.10.25, my subnet mask, and no default gateway, which is fine. That's perfectly good. So my IP address is set on my Windows machine, and I verified it with my ipconfig command. So that guy is set and good to go. So I'm going to leave him sit for right now, and I'm going to do the same thing on my Linux VM. So I'm going to pull my Linux VM up. I'll close my command prompt for now. Before I get any further, I'm going to want to verify real quick to make sure. I'm going to go to my player here and go to Manage Virtual Machine Settings. I'm going to go to the network, and I want to make sure it's set for bridged, okay? And I'm going to do configure adapters real quick and make sure it's only bound to my correct Intel Ethernet NIC in this case. I don't want it bound to all the other stuff. So I'll say OK on that. I'll say OK on that just to make sure. If you're using any other type of hypervisor, you'd want to find the similar type of setting to make sure it's only bound to that one NIC, that Intel NIC. All right. I'm going to come in here. I'm going to go to where I make my network setting changes. In this case, I'm going to click my little network icon down here, go to network settings. I'm going to turn my NIC off. I will go to where I make my change. I will click IP4. Once I'm in IP4, I'm going to select manual, and I'm going to plug my IP address in. 192, oops, get back here. 192.168.10. Well, my machine number is 25. If I use 25 again, it's going to conflict with my Windows machine. So I can't do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 125. That way I'm using 25, but I'm using 125. I'm not conflicting with it. And that should, again, work for all the machines in your room. You'll notice when I click netmask, it does not automatically fill it in for you. Linux kind of takes the approach of you should know what you're doing, otherwise you wouldn't be here. So 255, 255, 2550, and I'll leave my default gateway blank. If for any reason this apply button does not go on, it's because you have some kind of typo here that it does not like. If I left a space up here, you'll notice the apply button goes away. So look for typos, look for things aren't right. If everything's in pretty good order, you can do apply here. I'll come back here and I'll turn my NIC on, and I should see it apply using my 192.168.10.125. And again, I will verify. I'll open my command prompt, do in this case ifconfig, and verify that my IP address has changed. There it is, 192.168.10.125. Yay! So now I have static IP addresses on both my Windows machine and my Linux VM. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do a test. I'm going to do some pinging. So I'm going to pull my command prompt up from my Windows. There he is right there. And, maybe this is my reminder that it is my Windows. And here's my Linux VM. So on my Windows machine, I'm going to do a ping of my loopback, 127.0.0.1. And that's verifying that my NIC is working and TCP/IP is installed and it's all happy. I'll do the same thing over here. I will ping 127.0.0.1. Yay! Okay. Now in Linux, when I start pinging, it's going to ping continually until I do Control-C. That'll stop the ping. Over my Windows machine, I'm going to ping myself. I'm going to ping my own IP address, 192.168.10.25. And I should get successfuls. These are all successfuls. Over my Linux, I'm going to ping 192.168.10.125. I'm pinging myself. Last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to ping, in this case, I'm going to ping from my Windows machine to my Linux IP. There's the .125. I'll ping that and I should get successful. Yay! And over here on Linux, I will ping .25. From the Linux machine, I'm pinging the Windows machine, .25. Yay! Okay, so there is my setting a static IP on both and using the ping command on both to verify connectivity. Alright, so the only thing left I need to do is save some of these results, and I can actually go easy peasy right now if I want to. I'll open my notepad file from before. Here's my Windows machine. Let me minimize Linux right now to make your life simple. I'll open my Windows machine. Here is my Chap2 lab Windows. And what I'll do is I'll just grab this last ping I did, highlight that bad boy. If I hit the Enter key, that'll copy it, come into my notepad file, give it a couple lines, and paste it. There's my Windows ping. Yay! Okay. And I'm going to do the same thing on Linux. Let me minimize all this, just to keep our life a little simpler. I'll open this guy up. I'll open up my home folder. That's where my file should be that I did before. Here is there's my documents. I'll get it. There's my documents. There's my Chap2 Linux. Come around here, hit enter a couple times. I'll grab this last ping I did, because this is ping to 25. Right click copy, come over here, right click paste, and there's my ping, and I'll save that guy. So there is proof of getting my pings to work on both of these. The only thing left to do at this point is put your settings back. So let's go back to my Windows. Here's my Windows machine. I'll pull the lab back up. What I'm going to do is put my settings back. So I'm going to put my IP settings back to dynamic. So on my Windows machine, I'll come down here, little network icon, right click, network and sharing, Ethernet 3, properties, IP4 properties, obtain IP address automatically, obtain DNS automatically. Okay, close, close. Bada bing, bada boom. Give it a second or two. It'll pull up. It should be bringing up an IP address from the college. I will come in here and I will verify with an IP config, and I should be picking up a 172 address. Okay, so there is setting my IP address back to dynamic on my Windows machine. I'll do the same thing on my Linux machine. I'll bring my VM back up. Okay, I will bring my network settings up. Click here, network settings. Turn my NIC off. Click the little wrench. Go to IP4. Now, one trick here, I do need to delete this. I need to delete these 3 lines. Then I need to say automatic. Don't jump ahead of the gun on that one. So I'll say apply. Then I'll turn my NIC back on, and I should be seeing 172s here. I am, but I will verify. So I'll come in here and do ifconfig. Oops, if I can type correctly, there we go. And I'm getting a 172. So now I'm back to dynamic addressing on this guy as well. So there is working with my IPv4 address, putting a static in, doing pings, IP configs, and then putting my dynamic settings back. When we come back in the next podcast, we'll do IPv6.